This podcast is powered by Pelotonia. To learn more about our goal to end cancer, visit pelotonia.org or see the link in the episode notes.
I remember someone saying, every morning you wake up, the point in which you remember you had cancer gets longer and longer. Because in the trenches, that was the first thing you thought of when you woke up in the mornings. And now sometimes it is later in the morning, but I still think about it every day, and I still think about that moment.
Welcome to One Goal, a podcast from Pelotonia. We're a community dedicated to funding innovative cancer research through a 3-day experience of cycling and volunteering. I'm your host and COO of Pelotonia, Joe Apgar. Your journey with us to the finish line begins now. Pelotonia is powered by an amazing community, and it's through research that we will see an end to cancer. We want to thank our major funding partners, the American Electric Power Foundation, Huntington, the L Brands Foundation, and Peggy and Richard Santulli. It's because of them in this dedicated community that all of this is possible. Welcome to Season 2 of One Goal. Every day, we're privileged to hear inspiring stories from our community, and this podcast is our way of sharing some of these with you. Jyl Marazon is a wife and mother of 2 wonderful kids. But 2 years after her first ride, Pelotonia became even more personal for Jyl as she embarked on her own cancer journey. As you will hear in this episode, Jyl has an amazing support system and wears a small reminder of that on her wrist every day. But it's more than just a bracelet, as you'll soon learn. We'll start the conversation with Jyl and how she joined our community in the first place in this episode, Bracelets and Breasties.
So I started working for L Brands, and they're obviously a big sponsor of Pelotonia. And the chair at that time, I work at Bath & Body Works, and he recruited me. And I had been known people in my life that had had cancer, and you never know what to do. And this was I felt like a good avenue for me to participate and get involved in the community as well.
So how many miles did you ride your first year?
25. I rode my first 2 years, I did 25.
25. Have you done varying distances since then?
I have. So I've done the 45. I've also done the back 45 or 50.
55.
Yeah, the 55. So yeah, that was fun 1 year, but we only did that 1 year. Without much training, and we quickly learned that if you're going to do that back route, you're going to need to train.
You participated for a couple of years, really in honor of other people in your life, and then that changed.
Everything started happening when I was about 7 months pregnant with our second son. Found a lump on my breast and asked my doctor about it. And of course, that's pretty normal during pregnancy to have a lump. And we had the ultrasound done. They thought it was, again, nothing, but it was a mass. So they had scheduled to do a biopsy. And I actually ended up in the hospital on bed rest on other pregnancy complications. And so they went ahead and did the biopsy in the hospital. And 3 days later, when I was sitting in my hospital room, my surgeon that had done the biopsy walked in my room, and it was like 5:30 or 6 o'clock on a Friday night. And I was sitting there. It was about a week before Christmas, and I was doing presents and wrapping presents because I was bored being on bed rest in the hospital. And I was like, why is he walking in this room at 6 o'clock on a Friday night, the week before Christmas? And I was like, this is not good. And that moment is frozen in time for me. My OBGYN and my surgeon were talking and discussing what we should do. At that point, we just knew it was cancer. We didn't know the type or the grade or anything. And I was scheduled to have a C-section because of the complications I was having. So they moved up my C-section to 2 days after that. And the surgeons at the time decided just to go ahead and do a lumpectomy since I was in the hospital and I was recovering from the C-section as well. They're like, you might as well just have it done. So I had my C-section on Sunday morning, and then on Monday I had the lumpectomy. And they were actually able to turn around and have me home for Christmas Eve, Tuesday evening, to be with my other son. On Christmas Eve, the extensive biopsy came back. My surgeon had called me and said, we got the type and it's triple negative. We did Christmas as much as we could and as much as we could celebrate for our son. We went back and forth to the NICU multiple times a day. And then the following Monday, I was at the James. So a week after my lumpectomy, I was at the James meeting with my oncologist.
So you were how old when you were diagnosed?
36.
So you were 36. So you were 36, 7.5 months pregnant, and went into the hospital for complications from your pregnancy, and 2 weeks later, you were at the James.
Yes.
And you were a cancer patient.
Yes. You know, when I was diagnosed and I was sitting in the hospital room, and being pregnant at the time, all I kept thinking about was my son is going to grow up without his mom. And, you know, one of the worst things you can do when you're diagnosed with cancer is get online and do research. And I did. And if you start researching triple negative breast cancer, the stuff that you find out is not sunshines and rainbows. It's not an easy type of cancer. It's very aggressive. And I just kept thinking my children are not going to know who I am. And what is this going to be like? And what is my life going to be like? And I was walking in that day. We were met with a patient advocate, and we walked into the Spielman Center, which is one of the most amazing places in the world. And, you know, from the moment we met with the oncologist, it was comfortable, and I felt like I was going to be okay. We were actually going to the James for a second opinion. My oncologist plopped up on the exam table, so she was sitting there and I was sitting in the chair, which looking back was interesting because she was making me more comfortable, not wanting to let's go into the exam and do all the medical stuff. She was trying to make a relationship and build a relationship with me. And she went through the treatment, she went through the cancer, and she looked at me and she was like, you were coming for a second opinion, right? And I was like, no, I'm not here for a second opinion. Like, I'm going with you. And that moment, she gave me and my husband the confidence we needed. We knew that we were going to get through it, and that everything at the James, and we had the confidence that we were getting the best care.
You said you had one son already at the time, and then your second son was born, obviously, during this couple-week, really kind of wild process.
Yeah.
How old was your first son?
He was 5.
So you had a 5-year-old and a newborn.
Yes.
At home, and you're starting cancer treatment. And, you know, I think one of the things we've learned about your story is how amazing your husband is. Yes. Through this process, and some of the special things he did for you, and would love to just hear you talk about that and what that meant to you.
You know, immediately he started planning, and what do I need to do? Do I need to cook differently? Do I need to, what does she need to eat during treatment? So he would make me a juice every morning, you know, before he left for work. Every time, this was a really special thing him and my best friend Amber did for me. I had 16 treatments, chemo treatments. I had 4 treatments of AC and 12 treatments of Taxol. And every appointment I went to, they arranged for somebody different to take me. And it was a friend or a family member, and I didn't know who it was before I went to treatment.
So it was a surprise each time.
It was a surprise each time. So it was, you know, it made going to treatment something to look forward to, and who's going to take me, what are we going to do afterwards. My treatments were always in the morning, so then we would go to lunch afterwards, and then I would go home and sleep. But they also arranged a charm bracelet. So everybody that came brought a charm for me, and the charm that they would pick out was linked to our relationship or how I knew them. So throughout my treatment, I had family members come, friends, old co-workers. My current boss was there one week. So it was really special and something I looked forward to every week, which is kind of ironic that I would look forward to chemo. But I did. I looked forward to seeing my surprise visitor. I looked forward to what charm I was going to get and thinking about why they picked that charm. I also looked forward to the nurses and the doctors at the Spielman Center. They became your family and you saw them weekly, so they were part of your life. So it was, it was 20 weeks through treatment and became part of our life.
Who had the honor of taking you to your final treatment?
So a few of my family members came up and my husband. So my husband and my best friend Amber were there pretty much every treatment as well, along with my surprise guest. My final treatment, my husband took me. My friend Amber was there. Some of my family and friends just showed up to be there as well. And my aunt and my cousin came up from my hometown to be with me. And they got me a family tree charm. So it was really special. And my husband got me a new piece of jewelry. So I finished treatment in June, the beginning of June, and I wanted to do Pelotonia.
So do you remember sort of coming to the start line that for that 25-mile ride, which was the first ride you've done after you had this incredible personal experience, and what were your emotions like? What were you thinking about as you were lining up, getting ready to ride 25 miles?
The past year, and I think that's why every year in August, I relive everything. So it's every year I have a mixed emotion of gratefulness. I'm grateful that I'm here and I can ride. I'm happy. I'm proud of the community and of Pelotonia and what we put on every year. Some of the family that ride with us, they come from out of town and they look forward to the event every year. So there's a moment of proud, and I'm also angry that I had to go through it, when I did. Why then? And I remember saying, I could do this any other time, but why do I have to do this now? Why does it have to take me away from my son?
So your sons were 5 and newborn to a couple months old when you're going through this experience. How old are they now?
My oldest son is 11, and my youngest will be 6 at the end of December.
So what do they remember about your experience?
My older son remembers a lot. I didn't know how much he would remember. And about a year ago, it hit me that he remembers more than what I thought. I had just a regular doctor's appointment. I actually think it was a dentist appointment. And I said, I was going in late to work because I had a doctor's appointment. And a few days later, he said, Mom, how was your doctor's appointment? And I was like, it was fine, buddy. It was just a dentist appointment. And it hit me why he was asking. And that his first memory of me going to the doctor had to do with cancer and had to do with treatments and follow-ups and scans. And it hit me that he really does remember. He is so mature, and I think it matured him going through that and helping out with it and helping out with me and his dad during treatments. But he remembers a lot. And he's got a special place in his heart now when he hears the word cancer.
And you talked about just having an amazing group of friends and family that was along the journey with you. Have you built really a network of friends and family, but really people close to you that either went through the experience or people that you've met that had gone through similar experiences as you? Yeah,
I would say both. And I have a group of friends. We call each other the Breasties. So where we live in the community that we live in, there's a group of us that have all had some type of breast cancer. And we get together. We try to get together like once a month and talk. I never thought I would be in a support group. And it's not the support group like I thought. We have wine and appetizers, and we talk about life, and we talk about our kids and work and, the world and what we're doing. And we're there for new diagnosed patients. So I have that group. I also have a friend. So another very unique story. My hairdresser had her best friend go through cancer pretty much a year before I did. She linked us up. And so being able to see Katie on the other side a year later definitely helped me get through my year of
Gave you something to look forward to.
Yes. And we all talk now when we get together that how important it is to see people at different parts of the journey. Seeing somebody with no hair, seeing someone with short hair, seeing someone with long hair again. Seeing someone, taking care of their kids and going to sports with their kids and going to work and cooking and going out with friends. Like, seeing those things makes you believe that it's going to be okay and you're going to be okay, and you need to see that. So these groups are good for that.
So it sounds like it's a wine club, and the price of entry is
is cancer.
Is cancer. You've mentioned work, and obviously you work at Bath & Body Works, which is part of L Brands and one of Pelotonia's biggest supporters, and which we are so grateful for. But can you talk about the experience of work sort of through the process of having cancer and how supportive they were of you and just that whole experience?
I can't imagine a company being more supportive than what they were. And they were there, through the whole thing. My entire company rallied and sent food and gift baskets and house cleaners and anything, visits, everything.
And you have had the opportunity to lead and be one of the leaders on the Bath & Body Works Peloton, which this past year raised $1.4 million, which undoubtedly that $1.4 million will lead to saving people's lives.
Absolutely.
And what did that mean to you, sort of being asked to help lead that team and to sort of just go through that process?
Fortunate. I felt very fortunate. I felt very blessed. I felt very humbled to be able to give back to a community that helped me, but also an organization that had helped me through one of the toughest parts of my life. And I got to do something I'm extremely passionate about. I love Pelotonia. I love the cause, and I love the company I work for. So to be able to bundle all those together, it was, a year of fun for me. It was a lot of fun. Our company has an amazing ability to rally against something, and to see what we do is inspiring.
One of the things I wanted to ask you is sort of how often you think back to the experience of being in the hospital, and I tell a lot of people, after my diagnosis, I get a chance to meet a lot of people who are newly diagnosed, and it sounds kind of odd, but I always suggest to them that they take a picture of themselves while they're in the hospital, because in 1 year, or 2 years, or 3 years, 5 years down the road, you can look back at that picture and remember sort of the depths of where you came from and how bad you were feeling at that point, and sort of, I think it helps to celebrate the life you have now. And do you ever do that? Do you ever think back to sort of being in the trenches?
Almost every day. Until there is a cure, nobody's cancer goes away. A friend that was recently diagnosed, and she's like, do you ever stop worrying that it's going to come back? And I was like, no. Until there is a cure, you're not going to stop worrying. I said it gets less heavy, and you learn to push it out of your mind. I said, but it's always going to be there. So until we find a cure, there's never going to be a stop worrying about it. I remember someone saying, every morning you wake up, the point in which you remember you had cancer gets longer and longer. Because in the trenches, that was the first thing you thought of when you woke up in the mornings. And now sometimes it is later in the morning, but I still think about it every day. And I still think about that moment, the diagnosis moment of him walking in my room and me sitting on my bed. It's ingrained in my head, and I think it's ingrained in it so that I can realize everything that I can be grateful for now, and I have been blessed to come out on the other end of it.
I mean, this has been an amazing conversation. So appreciate you sharing your story. We actually have a charm for you to add to your bracelet that we wanted to give you just to thank you for sharing your story, and it's beautiful.
Thank you.
We're so grateful to have you to be a part of our community,
you guys.
to be a leader in our community. And,
oh my gosh.
So we just want to say thank you.
Thank you.
I just want to thank Jyl once again for sharing her journey with us. It's inspiring, motivating, and we hope you feel the same. We are grateful for every individual who shares their time and resources to work with us to one day see an end to cancer. We want to take this moment to thank our major funding partners once again: the American Electric Power Foundation, Huntington, the L Brands Foundation, and Peggy and Richard Santulli. This is what's coming up on the next episode of One Goal.
And I really won't forget when she kind of came to from her surgery. I wasn't sure how we were going to tell her, you don't have one kind of cancer, but you have two. And the first thing she said to me when she came to was, am I going to die? And I said, well, certainly not today.
You've been listening to One Goal, a podcast from Pelotonia. The first half of Season 2 will be hosted by me, Chief Operating Officer of Pelotonia, Joe Apgar, with interview and production scheduling by our marketing and communications team duo, Emily Smith and Gabby Blower. Produced, mixed, and sound designed at the studios of Wessler Media by Vince Tornero. Additional mastering by Joey Gerwin at Orange Judio. Special thank you to all of our guests for being so open and willing to share their amazing stories. Please be sure to rate, review, and subscribe to this podcast, as that will help others hear these empowering journeys. If you're curious about joining the Pelotonia community, please see the link in the episode notes or visit pelotonia.org. That's pelotonia.org.